Welcome to the live premiere, and this is something that I haven't seen anyone talk about for this game for Super Brawl Universe. So I thought, what if I made my own sequel for Super Brawl Universe 2 for a possible potential, a new take, something different, and something being titled completely different. And I wanted to use this game as a background because this game or this series for Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl started, or at least the first game. Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl was the next game that featured a platform fighter with these Nicktoons fighting each other. A fighting game featuring all these different Nicktoons from all these different shows. Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl came out in 2021, a little bit after Super Brawl Universe. So I'm gonna start getting into all the different changes and talk about my dream roster for this entire video. This could be a big one. It could go on a little bit longer compared to my other videos that have been a little bit on. Most of them have been on the longer side, but this is gonna have a lot of several timestamps, so people can listen into what you guys want to listen to. You can fast forward you if you don't want to listen to if you don't want to watch the video, you can close it out right now if it's not something that you're interested in, or you can just listen in for background noise, or if you can lurk if you want to, and you can chat it up in the live premiere chat and talk about some of the characters that you might want to see for this kind of game. It's not real. I'm gonna just get this out there right now. It's not real. It's not leaked. It's no kind of announcement. This is just my own idea to talk about something brand new, and just for the sole fact, so the sole point of with this, the what if scenario. What if we had something like this? What if we didn't get Nickelodeon All Star Brawl 3? This could be something else that they can bring to life. This could be another idea, a whole different direction, and they can start doing a lot of different things with these different characters and have other characters that still have not had a chance to be able to get into this game. And it's just unfortunate that this game ended up just ending the way it did with just four characters for the DLC season pass with Mr. Krabs, Zuko, Rocksteady, and Mr. Krabs. Well, I said Mr. Krabs again, but basically Iroh in a just with those four characters. Unfortunately, that's all we got. We weren't gonna get anything else. We're not gonna get anything else, and that's what we're stuck with. So we're going to just be talking about a lot of different things. And the one thing that I want to just also mention, I haven't gotten a chance to play Super Brawl Universe. I haven't played none of the other games from Super Brawl, from the Super Brawl series, but this game in particular stood out to me the most because this was the game we got before Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl ended up coming out a little bit afterwards. This game was released back in August 2018 before Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl was announced later in the future for October 2021. So this game was removed from the App Store. I was trying to see if I can play it a little bit and try to see what it was like, but I ended up putting in the time to research, get to know what the game is about, find out what the story is about. This game almost had a story. That's something I want to just really just bring up. This game almost had a story, but things changed. So I'm going to be talking about all that. So I wanted to play this game. This was something that I was looking forward to trying to play, even though I don't really play mobile games as much anymore. But compared to console games and other stuff that's going on, this game is no longer playable as far as the and just being able to download it from the App Store. And I'm going to be first talking about, for this first portion of this premiere, what was the roster, which characters were in it. And for me, when I got a chance to watch the gameplay and before making this video and finding out all the characters, gathering them all and see who was in the game way before we got the Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 1 and 2, I was able to put together this giant list of characters. It's 35 characters in total that I'm going to be able to run through, and I might even list them in the description along basically with this giant dream roster that I have. It's a lot of characters that I want to see, so I'm going to be clicking on different things that this game has to offer because it has a campaign, because it has so much more. And just as you guys can see from the screen, it has a lot more characters that never really got a chance to really show up from the first game that we were probably getting closer to probably getting, but we just ended up things ended up changing and we just ended up getting a sequel instead. So this is something that I wanted to put together, and this is the perfect reference at least for me, since I can't download the game, I can't really have the game on screen to really be able to showcase it. So I'm just using what I found out from my research and from watching the gameplay of what I found out about this game, what it had to offer. So the first thing I'm going to get into is the roster itself for Super Brawl Universe. This was only available on mobile devices, Android and iOS. It wasn't playable on PC, it wasn't playable on consoles, and never ended up coming out on any other platforms. It didn't make it that far. It was strictly for mobile devices only. So the first thing I want to just get into is the 35 characters for the roster that was included for this game. And the one thing I want to do is bring this up. Let's show the rosters in this game. The roster that's in this game that we got. So everybody see all the characters in the game. So SpongeBob is obviously in it, and we'll just bring him up on the screen. This is just the roster that we got from this game from Super Brawl Universe. This is the entire roster for all the characters that were added. So we got SpongeBob, Patrick, Star, Sandy, and the other crazy thing is it even had a Loud House character that I didn't expect to see added into this game way before. This same Loud House character didn't even make it in. So, and another thing that also caught my attention, there were different versions of characters, like Aang and Korra, that I'm going to be able to get into in just a few seconds. Aang and Korra had two different versions of them, even characters like SpongeBob, even Sandy as well. Sandy, for example, had a separate character that was playable named Karate Island Sandy. The Quickster was also in the game, which I also didn't expect to see. And the funny thing is, this is why I'm using this game. Because the Quickster is a costume that was implemented for this game. This game has way more costumes instead of just having one. The Quickster was actually a separate playable character in this game, as well as the Elastic Waistband. Two separate characters. The Quickster was separated, was a completely different character slot. The Quickster and Elastic Waistband, and then an alter ego for SpongeBob. Abrasive SpongeBob was also playable in this game. See what I mean? This game had a completely different roster with these kind of characters being separate from. There were multiple versions of these characters. There were separate characters that weren't classified as costumes. They were playable characters that you could pick and choose from to play as in this game. Squidward made it into the game. And what was also different for the TMNT, this was very different for me. I haven't even watched Rise of the TMNT. Anybody watch Rise of the TMNT? How was that show? I never seen Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They had the Rise versions of the TMNT. Rise of the TMNT, Raphael, Michaelangelo, Leonardo, and Donatello. All four of those turtles were in the game. But they were the Rise of the TMNT. But you see how they just kept doing the same thing for these previous games for Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl, per se. We kept getting the 1987 version of the TMNT. They never really switched it up. Nickelodeon Car Racers 2 had TMNT, the 2012 TMNT, which was a little different. But then they stuck with the 1957 versions of the TMNT throughout the All-Star Brawl 1 and the sequel that we have right now. So this was so different for me for this roster, and that's what really surprised me. And I was also excited to see some of these characters really get picked up, like these guys, for example. Angelica and Tommy Pickles were also in this game for this roster. We're talking about the base roster for Super Brawl Universe. See how Reptar is the only Rugrats rep that we got. So Reptar was in it, and then just get this, they did it. Purple Reptar was also a separate character. Lincoln Loud for the Loud House. Let's get into the Loud House characters. Lincoln Loud and Luna Loud, and also Clyde McBride was picked up as the Loud House characters. Lucy Loud didn't even exist in this game. And then the other crazy thing, Ace Savvy, their heroes, Clyde, both Lincoln Loud and Clyde's favorite superheroes from the comics, Ace Savvy and One-Eyed Jack were also playable, but they had Lincoln Loud dressed up as in his Ace Savvy costume, and they also had Clyde dressed in his One-Eyed Jack costume. They were also two separate character slots. Now, Rocko's Modern Life. We have Rocko and Heffer. And then Zim was also playable. And then Invader Zim, of course, Zim and Gur were also playable characters in this game. And then let's start getting into the Avatar situation for the Avatar Last Airbender and the Legend of Korra. Aang and Korra were playable, and then just get this: Avatar State, Aang and Korra were separate character slots. So just think about this. Just don't even think about Mr. Krabs or Zuko. This slot, don't this isn't Mr. Krabs. This is Avatar State Aang, and then this slot is Avatar State Korra. So those two characters were also separate, just like they did with Karate Island Sandy, the Quickster, Elastic Waistband, things like that. That was surprising. These were separate characters, and then on top of that, Timmy Turner was also playable, and then he did the same thing similar to him. Cleft, his alter ego. Cleft the Boy Chan Wonder was also a separate character. And then moving on to close out the rest of the roster, Danny Phantom was by himself. He was a solo rep. CatDog got in, and then Genie Wakeman. And then last but not least, Kid Danger was also a playable character in this game. This roster is so different, but I love the variety, and I wasn't even expecting to see characters like Luna Loud, for example, just like I said. Luna Loud is in this game. Kid Danger got picked up. Let me see, Tommy and Angelica, they were playable fighters in Super Brawl universe that you had to unlock. That was the roster. That completes the base roster of 35 characters, the 35 characters in total from the Super Brawl universe. So from this roster, the shows represented SpongeBob SquarePants, the shows represented SpongeBob SquarePants, Hey Arnold. I think I almost skipped. Did I skip Arnold? Did I skip Arnold? I think I did. Arnold's in the game as well, but he was by himself. So Gerald didn't get in. I think I did skip Arnold. I think I had a little typo. I was just trying to double check. Yeah, Arnold was in it. Arnold was also in it, but he ended up getting in a little bit late. That's why I ended up missing it. See, I almost skipped the character. So basically 36 characters. So Hey Arnold, Rise of the TMNT with SpongeBob. These are the shows represented: Rugrats, The Loud House, Rocko's Modern Life, Invader Zim, Avatar: The Last Airbender, Fairly Odd Parents, Danny Phantom, CatDog, My Life as a Teenage Robot, and The Adventures of Kid Danger. So that's all the shows represented. So just want to double check so we got everything. I almost forgot Arnold right off the bat. So for my dream roster, since we're going to get into this, and then we're going to start talking about the gameplay mechanics and things that I want to change and add, and I'll be switching up to a different mode to try to do a different comparison, and it's a good little reference for my little ideas for this game. So for my dream roster, I wanted to include as many shows as possible, and I already just mentioned all the shows that they basically represented for this game from the 36 characters for Super Brawl universe. So I wanted to immediately combine the roster for Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 1 and 2, and with this roster that we have for 36 characters, for the 36 characters that we have. So what I did character cuts. Because if you haven't caught it, why is Avatar State Aang a character? Why is Avatar State Korra and Aang a character? And then the same thing goes for Cleft the Boy Chan Wonder, the Quickster. He shouldn't even be his own character unless he had his own unique superpowers and things like that. But it wasn't the case. It was just his costume and things like that. They did have their own unique abilities and things that you could have, that you could really be able to use while you're fighting during the gameplay, but they don't need to be their separate characters. That's just wasting the spots and taking away the opportunities of other Nicktoons to be able to show up. Imagine they did that, making the Quickster a separate character when you already have SpongeBob in the game. And they also did it for Elastic Waistband, and just like I mentioned with Karate Island Sandy. So the 10 character cuts, I made 10 cuts for this roster that I think we don't need from this current roster for the Super Brawl universe, because they can be better off as costumes, since a few are already in Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl, just like I I have right on the screen for you guys to see. Elastic Waistband is a costume, just so you saw it. Quickster is a costume. And then the thing that's different for Aang and Korra, they don't have their avatar states, but they're part of it, they're part of their super or their ultimate or final smashes that people still say. That's their ultimate or their super moves in this game. They go into their avatar state when they're ready to unleash their supers. They're not playable, separate playable characters. So that's why I had to make these adjustments. These are just some of the changes, quite a few of the changes that I made. So 10 character cuts that I think we don't need from this roster that I made, and I was almost cutting it close to the 11 cuts that they did for this game from the recent title, but I believe these cuts made the most sense that I made from this game, from the changes for the Super Brawl universe, for this possible sequel if it does happen, for something new. And the one thing about these character cuts, I'm not excluding any shows from these cuts that I made. So this will leave the roster with just 25 characters with these changes for Super Brawl Universe. So I cut those 10 characters, so I just put the list of the cuts. So just in case people are curious, I made the character cut changes to Karate Island Sandy, the Quickster, Elastic Waistband, Abrasive SpongeBob, because it's his alter ego. And just speaking of alter egos and, alternate versions of the characters, look what they did. We got Dark Danny as Danny Phantom's, as one of Danny Phantom's costumes that's in Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2. See what I'm saying? So they can do something like this to turn these these alter egos and these different versions of these characters as costumes. They can turn them into costumes. And I'm not saying that could be Avatar State Aang. Look cool as a costume, but that'll be one of his super moves when he really turns up in the fight. So this could be an ultimate or a super for Avatar State, Korra, and Aang. So the other character cuts, I cut Purple Reptar. He didn't need to be a playable character. He doesn't need to be, and he's a costume right in this game. One-Eyed Jack and Ace Abby from the Loud House. Those are costumes for Lincoln Loud and Clyde. And then Cleft the Boy Chan Wonder as the final cut. So that's all 10 character cuts that I made just to change it up and try to start adding other characters. And just like I mentioned, I'm already bringing back all the other characters from Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 1 and 2. So I also made my own list that I organized to do the digging to make sure everything stays organized. So who's the missing links? Who are the missing Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 1 characters that I noticed that weren't in Super Brawl Universe? Like Ren and Stimpy, for example. Lucy Lau, Toph, April O'Neil, Shredder, Ren and Stimpy. That's already on the screen. Powder Toast Man, Nigel Thornberry, Ablina, Garfield, and Hugh Neutron. So since I made that typo and almost forgot about Arnold, that's 36 characters already. Because I already had it at 25. So instead of 25, it's the 26. Because I almost forgot to mention Arnold. That was in the roster for my typo. So I got it at 36 characters from... Currently, this roster is going to be at 36 characters. See, I wanted to try to cut this down so it doesn't drag on too long. So I got 36 characters right now for my roster. Now, here I am in Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2. I thought I almost forgot a character. So those are all the characters that were missing from Super Brawl Universe from All-Star Brawl 1. Or from the first Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. Now I'm on a sequel. The Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 missing characters. Squidward is already picked up, so that's why I'm not going to really be able to get into him. He's already playable and he already got picked up. Plankton, El Tigre, Jimmy Neutron, the Angry Beavers, Azula, Ember, Grandma Gertie, Gerald, Mr. Krabs, Zuko, Rocksteady, and Iroh. So I originally in my little notes I had it at 47 because I almost forgot about a character. So now I got 48 characters. So this current giant roster is 48 characters, and it already exceeds Nickelodeon Kart Racers 3's roster that had 42 playable racers. So now I'm up by... It is 48 characters. So it's a difference of 6. So now I have way more characters now than the Nickelodeon the Nickelodeon Kart Racers 3. So now I got the complete roster from All-Star Brawl 1 and 2, and then plus the new reps from Super Brawl universe. So I got about 48 characters. It's quite a bit. It's quite a bit. So now I want to start talking about this portion. Now I want to start talking about other shows that can be included for my dream roster. And I'll just say this now. They probably not gonna all get in. They're probably not gonna all get in right away, but that's what you have DLC for and post-launch content for. So some of these characters can start getting in later on for just how they did for future updates. They can start getting some of these characters in for updates when you start your season pass. When you start your season pass, you can start having these kind of characters join. So it could be multiple season passes or season pass DLC. So it goes on and on and on. And you don't have to keep starting over. You don't have to worry about making another sequel and keep on trying to figure out what's next. You already got a good solid game that's going to have tons of characters from Nicktoons from the past and the present that people keep on talking about. And they want to see these characters get into the game. And even some surprise characters that can get in later, even if they take a little bit longer to get access to settle a deal and make negotiations. So for this portion, I want to start talking about new Nicktoons shows that can join. And I'm not thinking about, I'm going to say this too, I'm not thinking about any of the other Super Brawl games. I'm focused on strictly Super Brawl Universe because that was the recent one that I was focusing. So I want to try to bring more shows from the past and the present all into one for this huge roster. And even if we don't get them right away, they can also be DLC updates for the future as a new season pass. So now for my little list, I wanted to just add in other shows from the old classics. People don't really talk about this show, for example, Kablam. Now, I could be going a little bit overboard with some of the characters. Maybe it's too many characters. Somebody might say it's too many characters. They're probably not going to all get in. Maybe some of them they're probably not going to go for it right away, which is completely fine. But this is all part of the dream roster. This is all part of it. So Kablam's Henry and June to kick this off for new Nicktoons shows. It's not a new show. So this is an old classic I grew up watching. It's not a new show, but it's new shows that never got in and never got represented in these crossovers, which would be awesome to see. And then some that we haven't seen in a while. So I went with Kablam's Henry and June, Rocket Power's Otto Rocket and Reggie Rocket. 2 reps. We haven't seen Rocket Power characters since Nickelodeon Party Blast, which was quite a long time. Ginger Foutley from As Told by Ginger. It'll be nice to see her as a playable character. And I went with Winx Club's Bloom. I don't know if they're gonna get in. I don't know if they're gonna go after them at some point, but they can get in later. Another underrated show, The Exits. I selected one member from the family of spies. So I went with Tuesday X. Cat Scratch is Gordon, Waffle, and Mr. Blit for a triplet. Another show that I really recently started watching that I really like and I want to see. I didn't watch it when it first came out because I didn't know about it. Kappa Mikey. So I went with Mikey Simon. Back at the Barnyards, Otis the Cow. And I think he was also playable in one of those Super Brawl games. But I'm focusing on Super Brawl Universe. So I'm trying to make a bigger game and a better game with this idea today. Tack and the Power of Juju. Mighty B, Bessie Hickenbottom from Mighty B for another great show. Fanboy and Choncho, I'm going to say that I also noticed that they were also playable, but they were in a different game. They weren't in Super Brawl Universe. They were in a different game as a duo. And I think Kyle got picked up from the show as well. So they could probably get him back, things like that. But I added Fanboy and Choncho for mine. Making Fiends Vendetta. Making Fiends Vendetta. I added Vendetta for Making Fiends. I'm messing up. So I added her in it. Another new show, Tough Puppies, Dudley Puppy, and Kitty Caswell. A nice little duo, a robot and monster. Anybody remember that show? Sanjay and Cred. Breadwinner, Sway, and Badus. Bunsen from Bunsen is a Beast. And then Harvey Beats. And then just to wrap this up, new modern shows that I want to see join that are recent, a little bit more recent, and they're not as old as these other shows that I just finished talking about. Glitch Text, Miko, Big Nate, Monster Highs, Draculaura, for example, Rock Paper Scissors. And then the last show that I added for this new modern show for Nicktoons, Max and the Midnights. How cool would it be able to see them? I think Nickelodeon will want to see them get in for this kind of brand new crossover game. For this Nicktoons Super Brawl universe. For this sequel, for Super Brawl Universe 2. Max and the Midnights, it seems like it's too new of a show since it just recently came out. But it might still get picked up, and I think they might want to see some of these characters get in. It'll be awesome to see them get in. So those are all the new shows. These are all the new shows that I added to get in to join the likes of the characters that I just beefed up with this giant roster, with this dream roster of characters that can get in from the rosters from All-Star Brawl 1 and 2 and the universe, Super Brawl Universe roster combined. This could be a huge roster. A lot of people will be playing this game. Plus, they can get that crossplay. Everybody's going to be playing this game. And you see all the characters, regardless of how you feel about some of these shows, you can pick the characters that you want to pick. And you can be able to play who you want to play. And if you want to just play one character all the time, you're going to already have your character sooner rather than later. Sooner or later. You're going to have the character that you want to be able to pick up and they can play. And that's why they come out with these updates. That's why I had it on the screen for a little bit. That's why they come out with these updates. They come in as available. Look, Zuko is now available as a brawler. They can come out with Fanboy and Chum Chum as a duo. They can bring in Glitch Tests, and they can start adding on additional reps and start taking in. They can start adding additional characters from those shows later on. So it's not going to be the end all be all just because, oh, well, you might wish for another Loud House character, for example, for some of y'all. Oh, this Loud House character didn't get in. Maybe they're probably going to be done with Loud House and they're not going to be able to get anybody else. They can get in later as another update, so it keeps on going on, and they can continue to benefit from the game, and they can continue to pour into the support. It continues to get the support, so it's a win-win situation for the fans and the developers out there when they come out with these titles. So that's all the character. That's the character portion with the Nicktoons shows, the roster that I built. I just didn't want to go through all those characters all into one because it would have took a lot longer. So it's almost capping off to 78 characters if you really want to count the duo. If you count the duos as two separate characters, it's like 78 characters, nearly 80 characters. That's a lot. That's quite a lot of characters, but it can still get more. And I didn't even talk about the villains. I didn't even talk about the villains at all. I didn't even get into the villains at all from these different icons. See how Rocksteady got in solo by himself? I didn't even talk about Bebop and all the other villains that's missing from this game that didn't get really picked up and selected. I meant to go to the roster itself. That's all I was trying to go to. Like Queen Vasis, for example, an iconic villain. And there's so many others that Danny Phantom has to deal with. I wanted to turn them into my next idea that I'm going to get into. So this is going to be the gameplay. This last portion is just going to include the gameplay mechanics and all the different changes that I want to be able to make to this game if it ever came out with Super Brawl Universe. And I am going to go into the campaign in just a little bit because I want to use something as an example. And I'd almost want to play a little bit of the campaign to try to run into a character if I can, but I don't know how close that's going to be, but I don't want to just have it drag on. So this final portion is all about all the changes for the gameplay mechanics and things that I want to make and make changes for this game. So this first one, the character interactions. The characters in Super Brawl Universe unfortunately didn't have voice lines, but there were speech bubbles where you could see the characters react to each other. This was something that really surprised me the most because we only have 2 different dialogue options in this game when you get into an encounter. When you get into an encounter with a character from the story campaign who's mind controlled, those characters have to be from the same show. So I'll just bring it up here. So Danny Phantom can react to Ember, and Ember can also react to Danny Phantom. So depending on which character that you're playing with in the campaign, you're going to get something different if you run into a character that's from the same show. So you'll get something different between Zuko, the siblings between Zuko. If you're playing as Zuko, you're gonna get something completely different compared to your next run when you play as Azula. You're gonna be able to get completely different reactions. So two different special interactions depending on who you play with. But that's how they designed this game. But it was so different for the Super Brawl universe. So characters like had special interactions like Danny and Ember that I just touched upon, Donatello and April, SpongeBob and Squidward. You just had to get lucky enough to run into them in the campaign. But from watching gameplay of Super Brawl Universe, I got to see Patrick react to CatDog, Jenny, and Zim. CatDog even reacted to Jenny being a strange robot, a strange metal robot in that matter, which was pretty funny to see. But you could not hear the characters talk; they did not have voice lines whatsoever. So it was completely different. So now I'm gonna get into the campaign and really start talking about some of the changes and ideas that I would love to see for this game. I didn't want to make it the same thing just like I did for All Star Brawl 3 for my other wish list idea. I wanted to do something a little bit different to expand on something completely different that they can do for this next game. If they don't do an All-Star Brawl 3, this could be something completely different where they can take the ideas and utilize and get the inspiration. So I'll show you Mini Claws. They can take information, they can take inspiration from Super Brawl Universe on what they implemented for the game. So this is just a separate file. I don't have everybody on lock, but I wanted to use this as an example. So just like I said with the campaign, they only have certain interactions, but they have to be from the same show. You can talk to some of these different characters, and let's use this for example, like Gary and Mr. Krabs, for example, which is what I like. But all the other fighters will talk to Gary and react. That's what's something that was a little bit unique from this game. So I would definitely love to see something like that change up where these other characters can be able to acknowledge each other. They just put it in this game just for the sole purpose because he's in the hub. These characters are in the hub, so they'll be able to react to him. They're not always gonna say stuff to each other all the time. These characters are just locked in this particular area exclusively, so you're only gonna get so much from it. So let's just try this out. See, it's Gary from SpongeBob and then Mr. Krabs. They're from the same universe.
Gary, what in King Neptune's trident sharpener are you doing here?
See, it's just things like this that you want to see from these other characters.
Being here must be getting to me. I'm trying to talk to a snail.
It's just cool to see, and it's hilarious. It's good fun, and you can be able to explore. Players want to see this. The fans want to see this. Even for me, I'm excited to see these interactions, and I hunt these things down. It's just so much fun to explore. But see how I'll be able to talk to him? He's not going to be able to say anything else. It's nothing expanded. That's all. See? There's nothing else. So they can start expanding with these. So now, those were the character interactions that I wanted to really be able to get into. So I wanted to try to switch it up. Let me see. Maybe Jenny will probably end up saying, see, I don't have everybody on lock. Jenny will probably say something to Nora. I want to try this out. Maybe I already got it. Maybe I didn't for this particular file. This is just the example.
Oh, there you are, XJ9.
See?
Goodness, whatever has happened, my dear?
This is what you want to see. But you're just like I said, these characters are from the same show. She created her.
Not exactly sure yet, but I'm glad you're okay, Mom. But what about the others? Brad, Tuck, and Sheldon?
And I want to use Nora. I want to use Nora Wakeman because of what they have in this game called perks. So that's why I wanted to just get into. I wanted to change it up.
Calm down, dear. I'm sure they're all right. For now, we need to focus on how to escape this place.
See? So that's just a little bit of that.
You're right. I can't do anyone any good trapped here. I'm sure you'll do your best. You always do, XJ9.
It's just great to see this.
Thanks, Mom. You're the best.
This is what I want to see with these kind of changes, with these kind of crossovers. We're getting some of that from Nicktoons Dice of Destiny, but the game's not out yet, so we're just gonna have to wait and find out in September. But this is just a new idea. So with this, you can buy different perks with different the currencies that you can buy. So you can be able to unlock different things like ninjutsu, hydrodynamic, design, things like that. They give you different benefits. I don't have everything unlocked. It's just a separate file, just for example. But it's something that they can end up doing. So character and power stats were included with the star levels with Super Brawl Universe. I changed all that up. I took all that away. And those were exclusive mechanics to that game. So I wanted to make something different with my own little story idea. So I'm gonna try to get into that and try to speed this up so it doesn't drag on for too long. This game, just from what I found, it had brawler cards and slime were used to upgrade the characters. The brawler cards were obtained from the chest that you get after a fight. So it was a little bit different. See how the chests were identical to this, like the expedition funds. The chests were identical to something like this that you could be able to unlock. The brawler cards were able to allow you to upgrade and things like that. So since I don't have too many perks or anything like that, it says not enough slime. The slime was also used to be able to upgrade your characters, just like I mentioned. So those could be able to be utilized.
No, where was I?
And then Gary also has certain things that he sells as well. Master Splinter just has the training dojo only. But Jenny won't have any unique interactions to Master Splinter because Master Splinter is from a completely different show. So that's the thing. But it was different because Gary is just one of those unique characters that has those special interactions when you get to a certain part, a certain place in the story. So, some other things that I ended up finding out, I'm just gonna bring this up. Some other things that I ended up finding out about this game from doing research, the story was divided into chapters. There was team management where you can change your characters and edit your team of 4 brawlers, and you can swap them out. They had health bars, so once you get out of a fight, you will have to heal up. And then at some point, if a character gets knocked out, you got to swap out that knocked out fighter with someone else that can go next in the next battle to take on that fight. So these are the story mode findings. So I wanted to change stuff about the story. And just in a nutshell, what the Super Brawl Universe story was about, it just like I mentioned, it almost had a story. This seemed to be all about Patrick, which hit differently for me. It didn't have nothing to do with SpongeBob. Patrick was the main star of the show, which he almost had that spotlight. None of the other characters really had any interactions or dialogue with any other characters. It was just all about Patrick. So just in a nutshell for this story. And just some other things I found. It had potions where you can heal your character and things like that. The gems were used as a backup just in case you ran out of slime for upgrades and stuff like that, that you can be able to convert to currency to level up your brawlers. So with these chapters, they had missions where you had to fight your way to the very end from each stage. Along the way, you would get the 3 keys. You had to play the same mission up to 3 times to get the 3 keys, to open the chest, to get the brawler cards, to upgrade the characters and the fighters. It was so much of a grind, and it had dailies and tasks and things like that, so you can unlock more unique rewards. Um, but this just the story summary with Patrick in this little spotlight. The beta version of this game had a narrative where Patrick Star would team up with another character. You can be able to team up with Arnold and Angelica as a chance by chance. And the goal was Patrick trying to find a way to compete for a Super Brawl in the Super Brawl tournament to get access to the tournament. He had to get a Super Brawl tournament pass from their rival, which was Jenny. So basically, long story short, when you run into Jenny and catch up to her, you would have to fight Jenny. Patrick would have to fight Jenny, and once you defeat her in the battle, she would give Patrick the fighter pass, or basically the tournament pass, to be able to compete. But that's where the story stopped. It didn't get any development. It didn't have anything else really to offer as far as the story. It didn't get a real plot because the game was changed and it turned to event challenges, where the event challenges were used to unlock exclusive characters like Cleft, the boy Chen Wonder, and these characters were rare. Some of these characters had different rarities where you could get lucky enough to be able to find them. But that was just the story in a nutshell. So I'm going to get into my new story concept of what they can do for this game just to close out very soon. But just with this game, watching it, I thought it had a different story. I thought it was going to be more, but it was just Patrick just talking to Zim, Jenny at sometimes, and then CatDog. But other than that, the dialogue would just repeat. It was an endless cycle. He wouldn't say anything new to Jenny. He would not say anything else new to Zim. He would cut Zim off, and then the fight would start. Saying, because Zim would talk about how he's an evil genius. They had those cool little, that potential of all those cool unique dialogue options, and from the speech bubbles and things like that, they had a good chance. But with Patrick being by himself and being the star, let's just switch to him just because he was the main guy or the main character that was involved in the story to try to get into the tournament. But once you beat Jenny and she gives you the tournament pass, she joins you and joins your team, and now the goal with the final interactions between Patrick and Jenny, they become friends and they decide to help each other to fight their way all the way to the very top and choose to try to become, their goal was to try to become the best team in this Super Brawl tournament. That was the whole story, but it didn't really develop into anything, unfortunately. So I wanted to just touch upon that so people understood what the game had. It had a story at the time, but that was all it really entailed. There was nothing else. Patrick wasn't really talking to any other characters like that. He wasn't being able to talk to Rocko and all the other characters like that. Danny Phantom showed up once trying to find his way to the city hall when he ran into Patrick, but that was it. That was just a short-lived dialogue because Danny Phantom was trying to find the city hall, and then Patrick ended up challenging him to a fight. That's just how silly it was, and it just fell off like that. So it didn't really turn into something bigger like I wanted it, like I thought it was going to be when I was watching the gameplay. So it made me want to come up with a new story concept tournament, a new concept tournament story mode with the crossover event with these villains attempting to have world domination. I don't want to make it sound like Nicktoons Unite and things like that, because I'm gonna open this up just as a little bit of example. I'm just gonna quit the run. I just want to open up the map and just take out the bad guys. But this, with this story concept, with these villains uh, attempting to get world domination, I don't want to make it too similar to Nicktoons Unite. I wanted to change this up. So each villain could have their own layer of a level where you could be able to fight these iconic villains of that world, leading into an epic boss battle. After the boss battle, you can unlock that world's characters to become playable. Like for example, for Danny Phantom's world, he has so many great villains. Danny Phantom's world of Ebony Park and the Go Zone could be the worlds you could visit, where you could fight Johnny 13, Ember, Technus, Desiree, Spectra, Clockwork. See how he's already in this game as a main villain, and somewhat he has his own agenda in this game, but you just won't know until you get further into the game. So I'm gonna get into that. I just want to open up the map just to do the comparison, because you could also pick the different paths that you wanted to take on. Let's take out some of these enemies. You could pick the different paths that you wanted to take on. There you go. So they're all knocked out. You could be able to take on those different paths that you wanted to go. It was something like this, but they didn't have merchants. They didn't give you free power-ups. That's how you were able to get those chests and those keys that you needed to open those chests to get those brawler cards of those characters that you own. The only way to get the brawler cards, you will only get the particular cards that you would get based on the fighters that you have unlocked. So if you only have Patrick and Lincoln Loud, you will only get those brawler cards or Arnold out of those chests to really have a chance to upgrade those fighters. So the concept I just talked about was just some of those bosses with the character progression. As you defeat the enemies, your characters can gain experience and upgrade their stats and perks if they go this route. But you see how each world is in this game is different worlds. It's only like 3 of them for the paths, but you have a boss waiting for you at the end. That's why I wanted to bring this up again. They can do something like this. It doesn't need to be a roguelike, but you can just be able to play and be able to get your upgrades, get your stocks, and really be able to level up and upgrade. So they can take inspiration from Super Brawl Universe where you don't need a key. Let's go to Gur. So I want to use one of these merchants, for example, for a little. Who wouldn't want tacos? Let's see. See, you can select the power up, and it's legendary. But see the rarities come into play? They all have their different effects. SJ2's hiccups fire a heat-seeking projectile, and then Jimmy Neutron's lab invention. Special attacks have a 10% chance of spawning a random item, a throwable, or a cargo. So, or you can skip it to get the currency, and you can use those blimps to buy stuff later on during your run. See how they did this? They can do this for character progression. So as you defeat those different bosses and those villains, you can get experience if they want to make it a little bit like an RPG mechanic. So just as a little bit of some expansion, just, let's just go back in the run. Just a little bit of a, just imagine this. Vlad Plasmius from Danny Phantom, Professor Calamitous, and then I wanted to change it up. Dark Laser has never been seen in these games before from Timmy Turner. Timmy Turner's universe. They got Clockwork already up in here. We're going right back into the roster now since we already used a lot. We already used the campaign. It's a little bit of some things to talk about since this had the perfect comparison. So characters like Dark Laser can be running things like outside of Mr. Crocker that could also be a part of the Fairly Odd Parents world for Fairy World or in the world of Dimsdale that I wanted to get into. Let's just bring it up because this is the closest thing that reminds me of Fairy World for the Fool Dream. Azula from the Avatar The Last Airbender. Zell could be forming an evil alliance to conquer the Nicktoons multiverse. Their combined intellect and powers will pose a significant threat, requiring the heroes to work together. See what I'm talking about? So they can do something like this. And then, see how they have squads? Form a squad by choosing your favorite 3 brawlers. This can come back, but you can have it as a separate mode online. Team-based combat. Players could assemble a team of their favorite Nicktoons characters online as a separate mode to give it like Marvel vs. Capcom vibes. They did it with this squad mode, but you won't be able to switch between the players. So with the squad mode, once you defeat SpongeBob, whoever I decide to take on, you can be able to take on another character. Let's just get some of my favorites to play in this game. How come it won't let me change? Let me just go back. Let's get some of my favorites. My favorite little squad, for example. Some of my favorite characters I like to play in this game. Let's see. You can get your 3 squads, and they can add this as a separate mode for online play, and they can add it for a story base, for another story little feature where you can have teams. It's inspired from Super Brawl Universe, where you can have your team and be able to take on those different villains in Danny Phantom's world of Amity Park, and you can go on down to Dimsdale. You can go into the world of Avatar The Last Airbender, head on down into the streets of New York and help out Raphael and Donatello, Leonardo and Michaelangelo and things like that. That's going to be something that can really be cool. So that's just a little bit of a new idea concept of a tournament story mode where you could be able to take on these different characters and go to these different worlds. I'm not trying to make it like Nicktoons Unite. It can be something completely different with another platform fighter with good storytelling and these characters that you can be able to have unique dialogue with. You can talk to Danny Phantom's friends, Tucker and Sam, with these other characters, and they can be able to acknowledge the other Nicktoons characters. So they can do something like this as an idea. I would love to see something like this happen. That's just a little bit of the story findings. And then just some other things that I wanted to get into to close this out. DLC worlds for post-launch content for these shows that don't make it in for launch day. This could bring additional story interactions with other heroes and other Nicktoons shows that I think could be awesome to see. It's just so much that they can do for this kind of game. Characters can acknowledge each other. They did it for Nicktoons Dice of Destiny. The game's not out yet, but you see how we had Katara talking to SpongeBob. Katara's vibing with SpongeBob, doing that eager dance with Leonardo and Timmy Turner on the sidelines just chilling, watching. Leonardo watching their backs and looking out for them. You know what I mean? And Timmy Turner just trying to have a nice discussion with the team to figure out a plan. It's just great to see all this stuff. And that's why I think this game could be so much better. I'm not trying to cancel out Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 3, but Super Brawl Universe can be something that can be bigger and better with this dream roster of all these characters. It's like almost 80 characters that I just really ended up talking about. Just that quick. And I just didn't name drop all of them right away. I combined all the rosters together to really bring together all these characters into one game, and they can be DLC. Even if it's not a 78, 80 character roster, it can get up to that in the future and more with other Loud House symbols getting in, other Jimmy Neutron villains getting in, and other iconic characters from Jimmy Neutron that are well known and loved by the fans, like Ultra Lord, for example. He can get into the game later on. They can add John Arbuckle. They can add Fire Lord Ozai if they want to go focusing on the Fire Nation all over again. They can add Fire Lord Ozai. They can add Bebop as a separate character if they decide to split them up. You know, and they can add so many other SpongeBob characters that can get in. That'll be really funny to see. Bubble Bass and Flats and all those other characters that can really have fighter potential to join in. And when those said characters get in, they can continue to take and add more and more and more from these series with these other characters. El Tigre has some nice villains too. So it goes on and on for this kind of game, for this kind of title. This is something that I want to see. This is something that I want to see happen. They don't have to make it into some kind of tournament. It can be story based where you could be able to fight on these, take on these different villains and be able to unlock characters. It doesn't need to be a roguelike game like this game, a roguelike story. It's a great campaign with good storytelling where these characters can be able to talk to each other and be able to unite and be able to fight and have fun. You can have tournaments to be able to compete. Everybody's going to be playing this game and want to see something like this. This is something that can keep going on for years before they decide to make something else and do something else and just take it into a new direction. That's why I want this game to be something more than what it is. That was the goal, to make it something different. It can take inspiration from Super Brawl Universe with those kind of styles. It doesn't need to have RNG and just being able to have this pay to win sort of aspect to it, where you have to just buy gems and unlock stuff from there where you don't know what you're going to get. You can unlock characters from just playing the game. That's what I like from watching Super Brawl Universe. They made you have to play and keep on trying to play. You had to keep playing to unlock the characters, what I liked. But what I didn't like is how the character cards were there for the upgrade process, but it was just repetitive because you had to keep on playing the same mission, getting to do the same thing, play that mission over and over from those chapters, because those chapters were divided into those missions to get the keys, unlock the chest, and upgrade your characters that way. But they don't need to do it that way. They can do it completely different, where you can just be able to play and go to these different worlds to be able to have these characters talk, have cool cutscenes and unique interactions and different things going on. Even if it's not all unique interactions, they can have cutscenes to make it stand out, so it's not so bland and it's boring and they're just saying two lines. Because when you run into these characters, just like I mentioned, they only have two different lines that they say when you run into them. They'll say one or the other. Danny Phantom is only going to say, this is what happens, get ready to learn what happens when you go up against a ghost. And then he'll say something else about not being so afraid, because he's faced creatures like a dragon before. So he's stuck with those two lines. He's not going to say anything else to SpongeBob. He's not even going to even be able to remember them. That's what people want to see. They want to see them remember each other, like Jimmy Neutron, SpongeBob, and Danny Phantom and stuff like that for the original Nicktoons squad. But with all these surprising characters like Kid Danger and Luna Lau getting into the game and things like that, I didn't even expect to see, that's going to make the roster even more special, and it's going to stand out. Maybe they can get a live action character later on and start thinking about that. That's what this kind of game needs. That's why these developers have so much potential. The potential is there. Why not utilize it? Why stop when you have such a good game? When you put so much time into a project, why stop when you can keep on building it up? That's what I'm talking about. They can just keep on building it up so it keeps going. When all the potential is there, why stop? You got everything that you got so much potential and support with people wanting to see more, just listen to the fans, you communicate, and you're just going to continue to grow, and the game's going to continue to prosper. That's what I want from these kind of titles. That's why I wanted to make this. So if they don't do a Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 3, they can make a new Super Brawl universe. It can finally get out to the consoles. It never made it to consoles. It never made it to consoles. It never got to consoles. It was strictly on mobile devices. Super Brawl Universe, those games were stuck and strictly available, exclusively available for Android and iOS devices. It did not make it to consoles. That's what people were hoping to see, and that's what I was surprised to see. I don't even play mobile games like that. I was so surprised to see this. So with this roster, it excited me for more, and it made me want to see more characters get in. It's so many characters that can just be able to get in, and even if they don't get all these characters in right away, they can come in the future. So that's what's just gonna make the product grow, where they don't have to just grind to a halt and just keep on running into that brick wall, or you're at a stopping point. Now you gotta figure out what you're gonna do next. Now you gotta figure out what you're gonna bring out next, and you gotta work on that next idea. When you got a solid project with a good amount of players that keeps playing the game, even like this one, for example, there's still people playing this game, competing, trying to get better, and learn these character matchups and things like that. It's still people playing this game and have come back to play this game and is still playing this game online. They want to play more. Let's just go to the online. Just go close this out and run out of time soon. But let me know what you guys think about this kind of game. Would you want to see this happen? Would you rather have something else? What would you do to the story? I'm not trying to make it like Nicktoons Unite. It's something completely different, where you can go to these different worlds when you fight these iconic villains in a platform fighter. I'm not trying to make it into a 2D fighter. It doesn't have to be that way. It could be a brand new platform fighter with Super Brawl Universe, what it should have been, available on all platforms where everybody can be able to play. That's why people are playing this game. Still, you're gonna find, it's just only a couple lobbies, but you're gonna be guaranteed to find someone in that rank just lurking in the shadows to try to get more people and try to get some competition. But let me know what you guys think. I definitely had fun putting this video together, and you can put your wish list, share your ideas with a story, iconic villains and things like that. I just didn't even touch upon the villains from these other Nicktoons shows, from these iconic shows, because it would have made the roster even bigger. It could have hundreds and hundreds of characters. So that's just something that they can end up doing for this title. I definitely want to see something like this. If this doesn't happen, All-Star Brawl 3, maybe some kind of new storytelling game. They can do something like this. So we'll just have to see what the future holds. I'm definitely excited for Dice of Destiny, because they already seem to be doing some good things with the interactions in the story, and especially the characters acknowledge each other. So I'm even more excited to see what happens. So we'll have to see what the future holds. So I'm excited to see. But this is something I wanted to put together for new ideas and more. So let me know what you guys think for new characters that y'all want to see, and different changes. And maybe you can critique it if you want. If you want to change up the roster, maybe some changes to the story, villains, and even some other characters for the roster if you want to.